Hey guys, we're going to be talking about King David and how that boy messed up. Stay tuned. All right. Anyway, I'm going to talk about King David here today. You guys have probably heard of David and Goliath. Sorry, let's turn the car off there for a minute. David and Goliath, yep, that same David. David became the second king of Israel. And now he is an adult, he is king, and they're kind of always at war with folks, and so that's where we're at, is they're in the middle of a war, but he is back at home, hanging out a little bit, and David is like as high as you can get as far as closeness to God. God put him on the throne. He kicked out Saul, put in David. Sorry, I just keep watching here for my boy. But anyway, yeah, for those of you that aren't familiar with David, yeah, he was it, man. Like, when they talk about the coming Messiah, Jesus, okay, a son of David, David was it. Loved by God, he loved God, but we just finished up the video on sin, and like we discussed with that, everybody sins, okay? And I'm going to tell you how David, this anointed by God, okay, even he sinned. Okay, so here we go. So this is going to be 2 Samuel chapter 11, and we're going to start at verse 1, and I'm not quite sure where we're going to stop at, so just hang with us. So 2 Samuel chapter 11. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites, and I have a hard time pronouncing these guys, just hang with me. Ammonites, and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of his palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "Isn't that Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam?" Hope I'm saying that right. "And the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Then David sent his messengers to go get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. She had purified herself from her uncleanliness. Then she went back home. Excuse me. The woman conceived and sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." So let's just pause right there. So anyway, David, this most loved, okay, he's got it all. He's the king. He sees this woman. He inquires about her. And somebody says that that's the daughter of Elam. I hope I'm saying that right. And the wife of Uriah the Hittite. So they told David, "Yeah, this chick's married, man." And he said, "Nah, go get her." So they did as he instructed. And David and Bathsheba do what people do sometimes, and she became pregnant. So let's pick up from there. So David sent this word to Joab: "Send me Uriah the Hittite. Yeah, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war was going. Excuse me. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all his master's servants and did not go down to his house. Okay, so once again, let's pause right there. So David's messed up. He's messed around with a married woman. So he had her husband sent to him, and he has brought him in and said, "Hey, how's the war going? How's so-and-so? Blah, blah, blah." He said, "You know what? Go on down to your house." Okay, now, David did this in anticipation of what would happen. You got a guy that's been out in the field for a long time, around a bunch of other guys, and he comes home to his beautiful wife. In David's mind, yeah, nature's going to take its course there, and they're going to do what they do, and all of a sudden, it'll be good. So let's pick up. Okay, yeah, but sorry, let's further. Uriah did not go to his house. He slept at the entrance, okay, where all of the master's servants were. So he didn't go home. So anyway, let's pick up. When David was told, Uriah did not go home. He asked him, "Haven't you just come from a distance? Why didn't you go home?" It's like, yeah, dude, you've been away for a long time. Why didn't you go home? Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my master Joab and my Lord's men are camped in the open fields. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and lie with my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing." So this guy comes in from the field, okay, comes in from the battlegrounds, the front lines, and he does not go home because his brothers in arms, his master, all those people, I mean, they're sleeping in tents in the mud, and in his mind, it would not be right while they're suffering for him to go home, get a nice meal, a little something to drink, and mess around with the wife. So he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that." All right. Then David said to him, "Stay here one more day, and tomorrow I will send you back." So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. At David's invitation, he ate and drank with him, and David made him drunk. But in the evening, Uriah went out to sleep on his mat among his master's servants. He did not go home. So dude did it again. David's like, all right, if I can get this boy liquored up, he'll definitely go home then, okay? Because in David's mind, he's trying to cover this sin. He's trying to get the husband to do what husbands do and go home with the wife. But this boy just ain't following the plan. So let's continue on. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it to Uriah. In it he wrote, "Put Uriah in the front line where the fighting is fierce. Then withdraw from him so that he will be struck down and die." Okay, so David's first plan didn't take. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to figure out what's taking so long. His first plan didn't take. Bring him home, he'll lie with his wife, he'll think it's his. Nope, that didn't work. So now he's got to do something about it. So what he's doing now, he is telling them to put him in the front where the fighting is fierce, okay? And then withdraw from him. So put him out there in front and then have everybody pull back so that he'll be killed. It's like, dude, David, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? So anyway, so that he will be struck down and die. If you guys are following along, now we're at verse 16 here. So while Joab had the city under siege, he put Uriah at the place where he knows the strongest defenders were. When the men of the city came out and fought against Joab, some of the men in David's army fell. Some of the men in David's, little tiny writing, guys. Some of the men in David's army fell. Moreover, Uriah the Hittite died. So, yep, it worked. Finally, David's plan worked. The husband is now dead. Okay, let's continue on. Joab sent David a full account of the battle. He instructed the messenger, "When you have finished giving the king this account of the battle, the king's anger may flare up, and he may ask you, 'Why did you get so close to the city to fight? Didn't you know they would shoot arrows from the wall? Who killed,'" and here's another name, man, "who killed Abimelech, son of Jerub Bethshah?" Man, I know I'm tearing that up. "Didn't a woman throw an upper millstone on him from the wall, so that he died in the Thebesh? Why did you get so close to the wall? If he asks you this, then say to him, 'Also your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead.'" So, Joab is sending word back to David about what happened, and he's telling the messengers, like, dude's going to get upset, okay, that we were so close, because we lost many men over just some chick throwing something out a window, okay? But let him know that Uriah, the husband, is dead. Okay. So the messenger set out and went, and when he arrived, he told David everything Joab had sent him to say. The messenger said to David, "The men overpowered us and came out against us in the open, but we drove them back to the entrance of the city gate. Then the archers shot arrows at your servants from the wall, and some of the king's men died. Moreover, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead." Okay. David told the messenger, "Say this to Joab. Don't let this upset you. The sword devours one as well as another. Press the attack against the city and destroy it. Say this to encourage Joab." So David's telling him, he's like, "Dude, it's all right. I get it. I understand. Just tell him to push on." Okay. "When Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him." This is Bathsheba, the one that David messed around with. "After the time of mourning was over, David had brought her to the house, and sorry, my eyes are weird, guys. David had brought her to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son, but the thing David had done displeased the Lord." Do you think? Okay, so David, number one, committed adultery, messed around with another man's wife. Number two, he committed murder. He killed this guy. And I guess there's lying in there because, it's like, he's just like got the 10 Commandments and he's just marking them out, man. He's just going to town. So, yeah, this thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Yeah, I can imagine so. So now, David has married Bathsheba and bore him a son. Okay. So now, God's upset. He's like, we got to do something about this. So the Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, "There are 2 men in a certain town." Okay, that's, okay. Nathan's going to David now to try to explain to him here, okay? So anyway, the Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, "There were 2 men in a certain town, one rich and one poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it, and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. it was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare for a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Okay, let's pause there for a second. This is where the study Bible comes into play. We all know about hospitality, stuff like that. It was real big back then. Like if you had a traveler come, if anybody comes in your house, it's super important. Like you just, here's something to drink, here, put your feet up, relax a little bit, what can I get you? You know what, we're going to have a big old feast. So it's that's where the study Bible explaining the culture and the tradition of the times. So this rich man had this traveler, and now he's going to prepare something to eat, but he's not taking his own sheep. He's not taking his own cattle. What it says is, instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for him, for the one who had come to him. Okay, so Nathan is telling David this story. It's like, you got a rich guy, you got a poor guy. Rich guy's got everything. Poor guy has this one little ewe lamb that he loves, shared his food with it, drank from his cup, slept in its arms, okay? Said it was like a daughter to him, okay? So loved this thing. So David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this deserves to die. Now here's where it gets good. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over, because he did such a thing and had no pity. Here we go. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. Woohoo. You talking about getting smacked in the face. Nathan said to David, you are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul, the first king. I gave your master's house to you, and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with a sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Amorites. Yeah, Ammonites. There we go. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. Okay. I think we're going to stop there. Okay. There's a little bit more to the story, but I think for what I wanted to talk about today, we're going to stop right there. Yeah, we're at 17 minutes. For those of you that were following along, that story is in 2 Samuel. I started with chapter 11, verse 1, and I went all the way through chapter 12, verse 10, I believe. Yeah, guys, I love that story. I've always loved that story. Gee, how can you love that story? That's a horrible story. Here's why I love the story, guys. Because it shows that even the most religious, most loved, most holy, most excellence, blah, 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 can fail, can fall, can sin. Okay, we all sin every day. But this was some big ones, right? Like David messed up. Huge. And if you continue to read in that story, I'm not going to get to it because we're running long. I'm just going to summarize. David asked God's forgiveness for this. And God forgives him, but God tells him, but your son will die. Okay. So David received forgiveness for it, but there was punishment for it. And that's another video for another time. as far as, you know, what we do and everything else. So we're going to leave it there. But just take heart that you're going to mess up. You've hard to tell what you've done in your life up until now. And this is another place where a lot of men especially have a hard time being saved, turning their life over to Jesus, because even though maybe they want to, they're thinking about all the frat parties and, you know, all the bad things they've done. And the devil's telling them there's no way that you can ever be forgiven for that. And what I'm trying to tell you guys is that's a lie. Jesus' blood covers all sins. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a little white lie or if you slept with some dude's wife, got her pregnant, and then killed the dude to cover it up. Okay? So yeah, that's that story I've always loved, and not because it's just a great touchy feel good. No, but it points out that the grace of God and Jesus's blood, what it can do, what it has already done, it's covered that up. So no matter what you've done in your life, it's nothing that Jesus can't fix. It's nothing that God will not forgive. So thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. I know this was a long one, but wanted to get this one out. I've been wanting to do this for a while. But yeah, it's a good story. Hey, read your Bible. You'll find some interesting stuff in there. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you after a while.